Meet sailing yacht Avanti and her crew, Gerard and Jacqueline. We left Cape Town in December 2021 on our floating home, heading west on an adventure of a lifetime around the world.
We have left the Marquesas Islands group and are heading southwest for the Tuamotos. We had to wait a little bit for the trade winds to fill in, otherwise it would have been a long motor for the 500 nautical miles that lies ahead. These won't be islands like we've seen previously, but rather small little atolls with lots of coral and a thin strip of beach between the Pacific Ocean and its lagoon.
Dolphins kept us company for some of the 500 nautical miles, but this passage is known for squalls and high speeds, and it did not disappoint. We averaged 7.5 knots and it only took us 80 hours to get here.
Biggest tuna we've got thus far.
Woohoo! It's huge!
Pacific skipjack. The weather has settled down quite nicely. We are moving into the lee of Pakarava, so we shouldn't be getting any swell anymore, and the wind is way down from the prediction. It's about 12 knots, it should be 18, so that's good for our entry. We're just waiting for the tides now because it's recommended that you enter the pass at slack tide when there's almost no water flowing out or in. Otherwise you could have a current up to, they say, 10 knots going in and 5 knots coming out, or the other way around actually. And we've also filleted and packed our tuna. There will be 13 meals for the two of us that we've packed, so a lot of tuna meat. We hoped it was something else, but it's better than nothing, so it's a lot of free meals.
Once we arrived, we wasted no time and went straight into the water. We haven't been snorkeling in months, and I couldn't wait to get back into the water for hours on end. These waters are filled with sharks, but luckily, for our first snorkel, we didn't see one.
Rutava is the main town, and it has a supply ship that brings supplies only once a week. It's not a large town, but does have a church, bakery, supermarket, and even a few small restaurants, and a pizzeria takeaway with a 2-hour waiting time. I've just come back from the morning baguette run, so like the other Marquesian islands, there's a rush for baguettes in the morning, and we went to the bakery yesterday. They said they open at 5, and if you're not there before 7:30 everything is gone. So we've got a stock of baguettes because we're leaving Fakarava's anchorage, or Rutava's anchorage, today to go to the pass later.
We tried to drift snorkel the northern pass, but the waves were too big and the water too deep to really see anything other than 1,000 fish. At this point, I was still very scared of sharks sneaking up and attacking us, and the day before, cruisers had spotted a tiger shark. So once in the shallower waters, I relaxed, and then as we got into the water, our first black-tip reef shark came to see us. And then, just a while later, a second. They're so calm and just swim past. We started to relax and really enjoy the coral and fishes, and before we knew it, we were snorkeling with sharks without getting scared at all.
Today I'm tasting another Tahiti brewed beer. This one is the Hinano. It's just a different flavor, I suppose. It's called a gold beer. So the last time I tasted a white beer, which is just a lighter lager. I suspect this is just going to be a bit of a darker and a bit more heavier lager. It's a 33 centiliter bottle, and it's 6% alcohol, so a little bit heavier in alcohol than the previous one. And it's also in the shop, it's $3.50 US, so extremely expensive here. That's why I just bought one. So let's see how this one tastes. I'm really sitting in paradise on a palm tree over the water, so I'm sure this will be a good taste. It's definitely a little bit heavier than the white lager, with a bit of a maltier taste. So yeah, I would not recommend drinking a lot of these if you just plan to have a refreshing beer. But yeah, I think for the cost and the taste and the size of this one, I would rate this one a 6. The light white one is definitely better for me. Cheers.
The giant sloth has returned.
Why?
Tonight we're going to the beach for a beach barbecue. We did the same last night. We took some tuna, but tonight we want to show some of the other people, our friends, our South African heritage. So we're going to take a pop tart that we call in Afrikaans. We don't have any traditional South African pop, but we have polenta. So I made a polenta as a base, and you put some corn and some mushrooms with parsley. That I've just spiced, and then on top of that goes a tomato and onion, we call it relish, and then over the top of that will be some cheese, and then once we get to the fire we'll just put it in the fire to reheat because everything's already cooked.
You wouldn't say stick bread, I guess.
Stop for it.
It's very obvious, a stick and a bread.
Like here, we talk.
I know it's a bread on a stick.
Oh, it's a bread.
Yeah, a stick in the bread. Yeah.
They're running away.
Okay. The food is done. The police came in to bust it.
We're getting closer to the south pass of Whakarava. We left the north pass this morning just around 8 o'clock, just before 8. It's about 30 nautical miles, and normally in a atoll we wouldn't leave that time. We'd wait for full sunshine so that we can have a look for bommies. But this channel is quite well marked, so we did take a little bit of a chance. And now it's almost 12 o'clock and we're already here. We're really excited. The South Pass is going to be where I'm hopefully going to do a dive. It's famous for a place called the Wall of Sharks, where there can be up to 700 sharks at a time at a dive. So we'll hopefully get a mooring ball and then get into the water as soon as possible.
We just picked up the last available mooring ball, and as you can see we have 3 sharks coming to welcome us.
Oh, sharky, sharky. The water was so clear on the days that we had in the south that I didn't even need to put on my flippers or snorkel. I could SUP past the bommies and watch the fishes and sharks swim right under me.
In the Tuamoto atolls there's quite a few anchor spots, but the problem with these anchor spots are that there's so many coral bommies that the chances of your anchor getting wrapped around these bommies is quite big. So what the guys do is, while they put the anchor chain out, you try and drop your anchor in a sandy spot, and you can see the sandy spots between the heads or the bommies. But as soon as you've got your anchor down, you just tie fenders, normal fenders, or some of these floating balls to your chain as you pay your chain out. And this kind of tries to float the chain so that the anchor is in the sand with a little bit of chain lying in the sand, and then as soon as you tie the fenders on, it will try and float the chain above these bommies so that if the boat turns, the chain actually does not get caught into these bommies. So it's the first time we've seen something like that, and we tried it once. I think our fenders are a little bit small, so next time we'll put 2 fenders on so that the chain floats a little bit higher. But yeah, it worked quite well in just keeping the chain above the bommies and not getting caught up in the coral. Typically we've seen that the guys space the fenders about 10 meters apart, or even a little bit less. So it's also important not to put a fender on close to your anchor, because one of our friends just said the anchor basically just popped out of the sand. So 10 meters of chain, then the first fenders, and then every 10 meters after that. So the depths here are around about maybe 8 to 10 meters. That's why we put out about 40 meters of chain. So 3 sets of fenders should be enough.
We went for our first drift snorkel in the southern pass, where you tie your dinghy to yourself and float with the incoming current. It was clear to see why this pass is so renowned. Calm conditions are crucial to have an awesome snorkel with the colorful corals, playful eagle rays, shoals of fish, and sharks alike. We'll definitely be sticking around here for a while.
Join us next week as Jacqueline goes for a dive with hundreds of sharks. I get to do some kite surfing and we meet up with some friends and enjoy the rest of the southern anchorages of Whakarava. Thank you to our Patreons for supporting the making of these videos. Liking our videos, leaving comments and subscribing helps YouTube to show our videos to more new people to enjoy. See you next week.